Well, I'm here with Gene Meitler. Gene, go ahead and tell a little bit about your family history here and then how you got into bondsman selection.
Yeah, in in the Hereford business here with my dad started in 1932 in Hereford. For the rest, first time we had registered Herefords here. This I'm the fourth generation, and my two boys are the fifth generation in this family to run cattle here. Um, So we've been here a long time. The house that you see me setting in right now is built in the late 1880s, early 1890s. Um, I've lived here all my life. My dad born in this house. Uh, Meitlers are forever in this house, but it's homesteaded, and uh, I got into the Herefords because I loved them ever since I was a little boy. I knew what I wanted to do when I was 5 years old. Uh, a lot of kids today don't know what they're going to do when they're 20 years old. I knew when I was 5 years old I was going to raise registered Herefords, period. And what got me on to Dr. Bondsma was he made the tour of the United States and went to 10 colleges and did demonstrations, and he came to K-State, and my dad and a number of Hereford breeders in the local area here um, went down to Manhattan, Kansas, and he spoke at Umberger Hall in the morning and gave a lecture session, and a lot of people didn't really know what he was capable of or anything till they went over to Weber Hall Arena and they brought cows in front of him that he had never seen before in his life, and he told them if she'd had 10 calves, if she'd ever had an abortion, um, her fertility rate, everything, and it matched every time. He was right. And I remember them bringing a cow in. The students thought they'd screw him around, and they brought a cow in that had twins once in her lifetime, and he didn't. I don't remember the exact numbers, but he said she's had so many calves, or she's had so many lactations, but she's had more calves than that. And they about dropped their drawers right there because they couldn't understand what he saw. And he was proven accurate at 80% accuracy, preg checking cows, visual appraisal only, just looking at them. And he had certain things he looked at that he said you could just preg test driving through your cows, never getting out of your truck. And I don't pretend to be able to do that. I don't know 1/10 of what that man knew, or can't do 1/10 of what he could do. But that lit my fire about Dr. Bondsma. I was a junior in high school, and I kind of forgot about it for a year or two, and then I got to reading more and more and more about him, and I found him to be so accurate, and it just got me more and more enthused, because as I looked at my own cows and compared them to what he said they should be, and sure enough, what he said they should look like, they were my most fertile cows, and they were the ones that functioned and worked. And that's my Bondsma influence started then, and I have followed that ever since I came back to the farm in 1972, and I've tried to breed for that specifically from 1976 till today. That is my selection criteria, period. Is Dr. Bondsman. It's nothing else, nobody else. It's Dr. Bondsma. And that is what I have selected for all those years. I don't even know how many years that is for sure. 44 years. And my cow herd is, the proof is in the pudding. We go like almost 93% of cows exposed to the bull this year will wean a calf next fall. That's cows exposed to a bull, not pregnant, not 93% pregnancy, 93% of them weaned a calf. We've done that for 5 years and right bumping that figure all the time. And some of that is our management, I know, because we watch the cows really close and you save some calves that way. I realize that that's part of that, but it's fertility that's bred into the cows that will do that. And I have some good friends who have followed that same criteria. They have the same type of, Chris Pelton has that same type of cow and has followed that selection and line bred it.
I'm just going to jump in here a second, Gene, just so everybody knows, if you're watching this, I'm going to go to Chris Pelton's on Friday. So you're going to see some of those cows, and we're going to go out to Gene's pasture in the morning. Of course, we're glad to have him back from the hospital and you here. Tell about how you built around Bondsma in your breeding philosophy, how you did that, what cattle you used, and then how you selected for it and built it genetically.
I found I started over with Herefords that Dad had, and I don't have any of Dad's genetics anymore because after I knew I wanted to line breed cattle when I came back from college, and as soon as I started line breeding those, I hit hydrocephalus, and I thought it was devastating to me, but it was the best thing God ever did. He taught me that I needed something pure in my genetics, so I wound up going to Montana and bringing back some line 1 Herefords who were already line bred for a number of years, and they had eliminated the lethals at least. They hadn't eliminated poor udders and cancer eye and all that, but they had eliminated the lethals, so that was a jump start on what I could do. And I brought home various cow families and so on, but the one thing that stood out was the cows that worked that I brought home all traced to line 1 Domino 569. And so I started line breeding to him because he was the one that was working in those cows, and my philosophy was that's what I want to increase. And I have cattle now that trace over 400 times to 569, and he was a very, very line bred bull himself. And he's worked wonderfully into the Bondsma theory because he produced Bondsma type cows and bulls. Some of those bulls, 609 is a bull that I owned. I bought him when he was 12 years old, and he natural serviced cows at 17 years old. 334 was a bull Bill Bennett had. He was a 569 son. He naturally serviced cows at 15 years of age. I had the 479 cow, which my whole cow herd traces to. She was 19 years old when she produced her last calf. Had another cow, 881, who was 18 years old when she's a 569 daughter too. And all of those cattle, super longevity, and I don't have anything that age now on the ranch, but it has proven to be longevity. A lot of people say, you know, you gotta turn the generations fast to make genetic improvement. I don't necessarily believe that, because the more long-lived the animals in your cow herd and still productive, you don't have to keep near as many replacement heifers, because you're not replacing them all the time. You take a average cow herd that is 5 years old, and a lot of people say, oh no, my age cow is a lot more than 5 years old. You need to remember how many heifers you're keeping, and they're only 2-year-olds, and they're 2 and 3-year-olds are the biggest group of cattle you've got, and it brings your average down pretty fast. If they're 5 years old, they produced a calf when they were a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 5-year-old. They produced 4 calves. If you have 100 head cow herd and they produce 4 calves, that's 20. Every year you've got to keep 25% just to keep the number of your cattle where they are. If you increase that age to 6 years old, you only have to keep 20, because they produced 5 calves in their lifetime. You only have to keep 20. Think of the economic pressure that you can put on the cows because you're keeping less heifers, and your genetic improvement goes up by that selection practice. Well, you're not keeping that last 5 heifers. You're getting rid of them, and you're keeping only the top 20 instead of the top 25. And that makes your genetic improvement a lot faster than it does by turning the generations over and over and over and over.